Mitch Garber is chairman of Invest Canada and executive board member for the Seattle Kraken hockey team. That's the NHL's newest hockey team. And he joins us this morning to talk about Bill 96 and, of course, Justin Trudeau's assertion that Quebec can unilaterally amend certain parts of the Constitution. Mitch, welcome back to the program.
Thanks a lot. Good to be here.
I'm happy that you're on the show because you are an Anglophone voice that actually carries weight in the Francophone community. And that's a hard thing to do in this province. It does not happen very often. And I feel the reason why that is because you are level-headed. I'm also someone that strives to be level-headed on this. I've always said that, you know what, we need a law like a Bill 101. It just needs to be balanced. And my disappointment last week is that we're going off the balance. We're going off the harmony we've had over the last 10, 15 years. I would love to know your initial reaction to Bill 96 and how that's maybe developed over the last few days.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate it. I think, I probably lean more toward the French side than a lot of Anglos do. And I appreciate the debate, and I'm open to the debate, and I don't have a monopoly on wisdom in the debate either. That having been said, I think what we need to understand is that we do live in Quebec, and it is absolutely a distinct society from the rest of Canada. We've had 32 premiers in Quebec's history. All 32 have been Francophone. We have 125 members of the National Assembly, of which 3 or 4 are Anglophone, a handful are Allophone, and all the rest are Francophone. It means that all of the laws are made by and enforced by Francophones, that we are governed here and have been for forever, but we'll say that, for the last several decades, by Francophones. So really, when you see this debate, this ongoing debate, it's really a debate between Francophones. It's the Liberal Party, dominated by Francophones, the Parti Québécois, dominated by Francophones, the CAQ, dominated by Francophones. Do I think that this particular bill goes too far? I don't think it goes too far, and I'm not very upset by it. I would like it to be more fair for Francophones to attend Anglophone CAQ. So if there's any part of there are other parts, but we'll talk about that in a second. But if there's a part of the bill that I'm actually irritated by, it's the one that's going to cause there to be fewer seats in Anglo CEGEP for 17 and 18-year-old Francophones that really want to learn English at that point in their lives to be prepared for the global economy.
Well, this is what bothers me, Mitch, is that they're the insidious parts of the bill. It is not lost upon me that this bill, I believe, seeks to cut off all oxygen from the Anglophone community. We're going to face the same issues as Francophones when it comes to population growth, birth rate, right? And it seems very clear that in an underhanded way, they want to make sure Anglophones don't see any growth. You can keep your institutions, but you know what? It's for the historical Anglophone community. And just little things like, okay, it seems like the government wants to decide who's an Anglo and who's not an Anglo. And I'm someone that's like, listen, this is Quebec. This is a French province. French is the official language. But at the end of the day, someone should be able to decide to join the Anglophone community. This bill, to me, seems like it sucks that oxygen away. It concerns me quite a bit, Mitch, and I don't know what your thoughts are on this.
Yeah, well, first of all, as an Anglophone, I guess my biggest concern politically in my lifetime, Canadian concern, has been the sovereignty movement. So if you look at where we're at today versus where we were at in 76, 80, and 95, the Parti Québécois hold 8 seats out of 125. They basically don't exist. And that's something that you need to take note of. So while there is, greater restriction on English language and a movement by the CAQ and others to protect the French language, we have basically eliminated the biggest concern and risk of most, I would say all, Anglophones in Quebec, which is independence. Now, that having been said, I do feel that the bill itself it's kind of like a menu in a restaurant. I don't like everything on any menu in any restaurant. And I believe strongly, and I will fight for this. I believe strongly that a merchant should be able to greet his customers or her customers with bonjour, hi, wait for the reply, and then serve the customer in the language of the reply. I believe strongly in that. And I would fight for that, by the way. So,
but Mitch, that's not in the bill, by the way. That's not in the bill. What is in the bill, though, and what concerns me, we're with Mitch Garber, by the way. What concerns me is that it seems like Simon Jolin Barrette is hell-bent on removing our rights in the justice system, and it's not done overtly. It's done in an underhanded way. And there's all this talk of, okay, well, you come to Quebec and you have 6 months, we'll communicate with you in another language, and then that's it. And if they touch the Constitution and they're allowed to amend the Constitution in the manner they want to, it'll give them the authority 2 or 3 years down the road to say, oh, yeah, well, we have this authority in the Constitution. We're also going to do this. We're going to remove this right in the court system and justice. It makes me very anxious, Mitch, and I want to know if you have any of those anxieties.
I do. Like I said, as a trade-off versus a strong independence movement, I am prepared to sacrifice some English rights as a trade-off. And I do believe that the trade-off is inevitable because, as I said, the entire National Assembly is made up of Francophones. The future premiers of this province, as the last 32, will all be Francophones. And the CAQ has come along and eliminated, at least for the foreseeable future, that risk. That being said, there are things that concern me. So, for example, I believe that if you're in court, you must be able to plead your case in English. I believe that if you show up at a hospital, you must be able to be served or try to be served in English. These are matters of life and death. These are very, very important matters. And we do live in a country that is predominantly Anglophone. We do live in a country we do live in a province that wants to attract foreign investment. It is very hard to attract foreign investment if you tell people you can come to this place in Canada and cannot be served in English in a hospital, or you can go anywhere else in Canada and you will be able to be served in English. So I think we need to balance, do we want to attract foreign investment? Do we want to give people the right to be served in English when it comes to matters really of security and life and death? I absolutely will fight for that as well.
We're with Mitch Garber. He's the chairman of Invest Canada. I'm happy with what you just brought up, Mitch, because I feel, again, I thought we had some harmony going on in this province for 10, 15 years on language, and it seems like this bill will make it more difficult for that investment money. We had someone from the BDC, their Deep Tech Fund, was on the program this week, and, last year Montreal caught up to Toronto in venture capital investments in the tech area. And when you throw in these things, you can't require English. You got to prove that you can require English. And all of these things, you want to bring someone here temporarily? Well, they can't necessarily go to English school in the way they could before. Their children can't go to school. Those things are not good, I feel, for investment.
I agree. And those are the parts of the bill that I do find problematic. So you asked me, overall, what I'm saying is that I think that we're going to have to make certain sacrifices in order to keep the sovereignty movement in the coma that it's in. There will be costs, and that is how the CAQ has come to exist. And so, I don't want the headline, not that I'm deserving of any headline, but the headline to be, Mitch Garber supports, all of Bill 96. No, What I support is the fact that there are sacrifices to be made to maintain this peace that we have, and you're right. Maybe there was some harmony. I think a lot of the disharmony, in my view, it comes from the Journal de Montréal, and it's in my view, it's a propagandist newspaper, at least from the opinion section of the paper. It is a paper that every day basically spews the frustration of the fact that the independence movement is in a coma. I think it creates divisiveness in Quebec. It does have a large readership. It's probably the reason why I tweet as often as I do and why I tweet in French. because I'm not paid to disseminate any information. And I feel that at least I have somewhat of an objective voice, even if my positions and opinions are well known and probably seated in my background.
Mitch, one last question for you. 2022, there's a possibility of a really fractured provincial election campaign. The CAQ, the Liberals, Quebec Solidaire. Now you throw into the mix Climat Quebec. Now you throw into the mix a conservative party led by radio host Eric Duhem. Then you've got the Green Party. There are a lot of parties out there. Anglophones may feel that they aren't represented in any of those. Do you think, when you talk about representation in 3 or 4 Anglophones in the National Assembly, a way to change that would to have a party that speaks for Anglos, allophones, and bilingual thinking Quebecers, Francophones?
I think Joseph Facal in the Journal de Montréal 2 days ago, he said that the Parti Québécois is in the palliative care unit of the hospital and that the Liberal Party is the party of Anglophones and allophones. He's probably somewhat right. He's right about both of those things, but just to tell you, I think that the fractured scenario you just painted is the scenario that ensures that the independence movement will stay in a coma for a very long time. The more parties and the more fractured it is, I think it's best for those that want to remain in Canada and keep that issue buried.
Mitch Garber is chairman of Invest Canada. And Mitch, congratulations, by the way. I know things are rolling for the Seattle Kraken. They just signed their first player. Appreciate you coming on the show.
Thanks, Elias.